All right, guys, we're gonna get started and we'll kind of just let people fill in before we actually start the live listing presentation. So we'll just get through some housekeeping items and then we'll invite Jacob. So upcoming sales meetings, we have some really fun things to finish off the month. So next Tuesday, we're finishing off the theme of listings this month with seller objections with Eric and then a power hour after. So the first sales meeting, does anybody remember what we talked about? It was lead generating for listings. Today, we're going through a live listing presentation. And then finally, we're going to be talking about objections with listers, objections with sellers. And then we're going to stay in the room and call. So if you want some inspiration for lead generation, or you just want to hear other agents, call some of their past clients or call their sphere, call expired, their first sale by owners. We're going to be doing that in the training room next week. So that's definitely not one that you want to miss. April 1st, Spring Market Mastery. That's going to be our Zoom or virtual meeting. So April 1st, join us. And that is not a joke. April Fool's Day is not a joke. Okay. No sales meeting April 8th because it is the Q2 kickoff. So if you haven't already registered for Q2 kickoff or the formerly known as Spring Masterminds, please add that to your calendar. There's some really exciting stuff on the agenda. We were just finalizing it yesterday with some folks here, and it's definitely like if there's one thing you plug into between now and in May, this April 8th would be the one thing that you should go to. All right. Our belief system. Love starting our meetings with this. So anyone in the room, we want to hear some ahas or some popcorn answers from win-win to trust to success. Tell us something that happened in your business this past week where this showed up. And I've been instructed to stay quiet until someone answers. So make this easy for me and for you. Yes. Hi.
Didn't take my coat off yet either.
No, I love it. I love it.
Hi.
You came just for this.
Got an email yesterday from a young woman, and she said that one of my past clients' friend referred me to. So I said, well, so I picked up a first-time home buyer client yesterday.
I love that. I love
my
that.
phone's ringing, so maybe somebody else is coming.
Perfect.
Yikes.
Let's do one more. Commitment. Tell me more about that.
For me, just being committed and doing the work. So of course, real estate is up and down, but it's like you can't really focus on it. As long as you're committed to doing the work every day, it's gonna come back.
I love that you said that. It's so funny that you brought that up. I'll tell a super quick story on how I feel the exact same way. So we were creating some of the content for the Q2 kickoff, right? And between Bernsey, Mike and myself, we were all talking about, it felt like some of the family reunion, the recap slides, the data, it all felt very doom and gloom. And then we kind of all stopped ourselves and we were like, these are just numbers. Like numbers just tell a story and they tell us how to audit our business to keep winning. Like there's no negative of a market being down. There's no emotion associated with lower amount of inventory. It's just telling us what we need to do to make sure that we're still winning. So I love that you said whether it's down or up, there's no emotion behind it. You just have to stay committed and run the course. So I love that one. Upcoming training. So how to become a real estate agent is going to be both in the West Side offices and the East Side offices. This is a really perfect opportunity if someone in your life or your SOI wants to learn more about how to become a licensed realtor. We take that conversation completely off of you. Send them to this event, or if they're not available for this event, make sure you connect me, or if they're on the West Side, connect them with Bernsey and we'll do a one-on-one appointment with them. But this is the perfect way to get someone in the door. Super excited about this one. Next Thursday, the women of KWGM are hosting their Q2 business boost. And that's going to be located at Shoshana's office, actually. So if you scan the QR code, all of the details for the event are there, including the address. So this is a really good one. If you've been wondering about joining a community within Greater Metropolitan, Women of KWGM is a really good one to check out. I see Jade doing it, so I'm going to wait until, okay, good. Okay, perfect. Okay, quarter two kickoff. I already kind of gave my spiel around that. I'll kind of give a little teaser on our speaker. His name is Danny. A lot of us watched him at family reunion. He's killing it in the Cincinnati area. Is that right, Julie? Sorry, Carrie? Cincinnati? Danny? Okay, so Danny is going to be talking to us about how he does micro events and really dives deep into his SOI in marketing to build a mega business for himself. So if that's anything that you are interested in, which it absolutely should be, he's going to be talking all about that. Partner updates. I'm going to start with Ohio Real. Back.
Not too much display, guys. We're gonna be having, there is a CE coming up. It's gonna be outside. If anybody needs their core law, it's gonna be out in, Lake County. I don't know if that suits you, but that's in April. If you need that information, come talk to me. Other than that, business as usual, guys. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
That was short and sweet. I love it. Renee is not here today, right? Okay. Cross country.
I'll come to the front.
Perfect. Thank you. The seats are for you.
All right, so this is Fed Week. Federal Reserve Board meeting starts today, concludes tomorrow at 2:00. Press conference to follow. There will be no drop to the interest rates, as far as the federal funds rate. They will have one press conference where everybody will try to read between the lines about what the Fed really thinks. Next Fed meeting, I think, is the first week of May, about a 15% drop then, but after tomorrow's press release, that you might see a little bit of a shakeup. So that will give you some movement with interest rates. 30-year rates are in the sixes, which is a big gift compared to where we thought they were going to be just 30 days and 60 days ago. So being anywhere in the sixes right now is a good place to be, and make sure your buyers do that. A few things, zero down loan program. So of course we do VA. Every week I get at least one person saying, "You do VA loans?" We do a lot of them. I think we're the third largest lender for VA loans in the nation. We do the doctor loan. So this Friday is match day. So every graduating med student is going to find out where they're spending the next 4 years. And obviously with the clinic, with the VA, with Metro and UH, we have an influx of people. And keep in mind, those residents might 4 years, 4-year residents now, or might be moving out, have listings everything as well. And then OFA. So you've heard me talk about all the down payment assistance programs. I'll give you a quick example of a nice OFA transaction. This buyer, she's been looking to buy for years and just never was able to pool enough funds to come up with a down payment. She's been renting the same place for 11 years. So she's going to be in the long term. She put $1,500 earnest money down. She's closing today. She's getting $1,480.61 back. She spent less than $20 out of pocket to close on this house. Seller's paying the closing costs. There was one extra hoop she had to jump through. The seller said, if there's any FHA repairs, I'm not going to take care of them. So our customer 2 weeks ago went out and painted the backside of a garage. But so there might have been a can of paint there in addition for $20, but it can happen that way. And sellers are accepting FHA offers. So don't worry about that. Any questions?
Well done. Thank you. That's perfect. Okay. Liz?
Morning, everyone. So I know a lot of times I get up here and I talk to you about what I offer in terms of contract to close, working with agents once you under contract. But just so everyone's aware, there are other things that are available. I also help agents get their listings into the MLS and everything that entails. And some of the other things, I have several agents that I work with and I actually do their profit and loss statements every month. So for those of you who don't have a profit and loss and would like one, especially as you're going through all of your taxes for last year and realize that it would be nice if you just had one document that already had everything categorized, that is something that I offer as well.
Yeah. And since we're all realtors, 1099 employees, you definitely need a profit and loss if you want to purchase a home, if you haven't been doing this for a very long time. So that is also super helpful. Thanks, Liz. Appreciate it. All right. Is Keller Home Loans here today? David's not here today? Okay. The office is dark. We're going to keep moving. All right. Everybody, give Jake a round of applause. He's going to come up and help us today.
Okay, thanks, everybody for coming. I know some of you might have been celebrating yesterday, not me. Otherwise I wouldn't be here probably. But for those who don't know me or those who know me, my name is Jake Lozier. Been a realtor here and I lead the Lozier Real Estate Group. I've been doing it for 20 years. And I've been the listing agent exclusively on our team. So sold hundreds of listings and, gotten better at it through time, I think, or more comfortable. And it's important to me to talk about this to you guys because I really think, until you have this part down, you're really kind of missing the boat as far as your career is concerned. Just when it comes to the foundation of your business, leveraging things like that, you really need to hone in on listings. I kind of think about it like the varsity of real estate. Not that there's anything wrong with buyers. They look like markets here. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as the presentation, I'm going to stop and start a few times. But the first thing that we're going to do, kind of the first step in the preparation phase, and really, the listing should be almost half yours by the time you show up at the door. So you want to do a lot of prep work. You want to be prepared. So the first step is the pre-list call. Okay, so whether this is a referral, you get it online and you're following up, whatever it is, you do that pre-list call. So we're going to go ahead and role play that break.
I'm gonna just pause really quick.
You're going to pause my pause?
Yeah, pause your pause. I'm completely forgot to ask. So the reason we selected Jake is because he does, like you just mentioned, he does a pre-listing call, an email that goes out before the listing, the actual listing appointment, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about follow-up. He actually, funny enough, when I called to ask Jake to do this, he was like, I might not be the right person because mine is not as meticulous as someone who might just be starting out their listing presentation. And that's why we picked him, because it's gonna feel a lot more natural than someone that's like, oh my gosh, I'd have to have everything in my listing presentation printed out in a binder for every, okay, so that is the first note. And then the second note is if there's one thing we could get out of the listing presentation with Jake today, what are you guys looking for? So we can make sure we cover it up here. Is it the pre-listing? Is it the communication during the listing appointment? What's most important for us today?
Looking for the communication before and after the appointment.
Before and after, perfect, okay. Perfect, this is yours. All right, I unpause my pause to go to your pause.
Okay. Ring.
Hello,
Hi, is this Kate?
this is Kate.
Hi, Kate. How are you? This is Jake Lozier with the Lozier Real Estate Group.
Hi Jake, I'm doing well. How's it going?
Good. Hey, reason for my call, I got a call from your Aunt Sue, who's a really good friend of mine, and she said you might be looking to sell your house.
Oh, good old Aunt Sue. Yeah, I am looking to sell my house. I really don't know if it's gonna be worth it to sell. Kind of just starting to think about it, but I want to move. I just don't know.
Well, so Sue told me that you got a new job in Pennsylvania. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about that. When does that start?
Well, it starts at the end of April. And the thought right now is like, we just don't want to rush. So could I be driving an hour and a half to work, a couple days a week? I guess I could. I just don't want to rush and just, we want to make sure we get enough money out of our house. We only bought it like 3 years ago. So.
Sure. No, that all makes sense. We can definitely help you out with that. By the way, do you have a realtor in Pennsylvania? Because I know a lot of really strong agents out there.
Oh, well, that's funny. That is like another reason we just weren't sure because we don't even know where to get started about looking for a house there.
Perfect. So I'll send you a couple names.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about the house. I see you sold it or you bought it in 2016. Have you done any major renovations like to the kitchen or bathrooms?
We actually added a bathroom in the basement. And then we, just did normal updates, but nothing crazy. Like we, replaced the carpet upstairs and we did add a fence around the yard and just normal stuff.
Gotcha. Perfect. any idea about what you think the house is worth?
Well, I looked at Zillow and like the Zestimate says like 420.
Perfect. Okay, great. So we can dive in a little bit more to that, a little bit more with that when we sit down. And can I get an email from you by any chance?
Oh yeah, it's Kate Johnson at kw.com.
Okay, so I'm gonna send you the details, but I'd love to come by and take a look at the house. I'm actually around today at 2, or are you around tomorrow at 5?
Actually, we're home today at 2:00 is good.
Perfect. Well, I'll see you then. I'm gonna follow up with, my information and confirming this and a pre-list email, just so you have everything down and you can see what we do to get houses sold. Last question. Am I the only one coming over to talk to you about the house, or are you interviewing other agents?
Oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about talking to anybody else. Right now, you're the only person that's called me.
That's wonderful. So hopefully it stays that way. I'd love to sell this house for you. So I will see you today at 2, and I'm looking forward to it, Kate.
Perfect, sounds good.
All right, awesome. So I'm gonna pause right there. Any ahas from that call?
I love it. It was just so natural, and you were trying to just more engage with her and get to know her a little bit better versus just being like, hey, I'm coming over today at this time.
Mhm.
You ask those detailed questions, so now when you go to the appointment, you have things to follow up on.
Perfect. Yep.
No, you found out the main thing is like, what's the motivation to move? How much motivation does she have to move?
Yep. Yep.
I was curious to know what your response would be if she was interviewing her.
Oh, let's run that back. I should have said that.
Okay. I didn't want to run that back. Run it back. All right. Well, honestly, what I would say is, okay, great, blah, blah, blah. And then I would try to close her at the meeting. I try to get in there as soon as possible and close her at the meeting. Or just not show up.
You say you don't ask her that pre-list call. Her, if she's in.
No, I asked.
You asked. her.
Yeah, I asked.
I like how you said it too. You said like, if you only want to come to your house, or are you in conversation with other realtors too? Because I do feel like, especially if it's a referral, there's like the fact that you put it in my mind that no one is even calling to help me, like
Right.
automatically made me want to trust you more.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, yes.
You have. This is not like challenging, but do you have bullet points that you, in your mind, you're thinking, I want to do this?
Yes.
Is there like-
Let me go over those now.
That was
Okay.
perfect. That's
So,
really accurate.
thank you. Plant.
Yeah.
They planted here. Okay, so a few things. So you're looking for pain, right? So what's the pain? Why are they moving?
This
House
all
is
in
too
the phone
small.
call. This is all in the phone.
This is all on the phone. Yeah, and you can get it done real quick.
Okay.
What is the reason for your move? New job, timeline. Do you have to be there? You just kind of kicking tires. You always want to put in there, do you have a realtor referral if they're going to a different state? I would make it a habit, because that's super duper easy money. And especially usually people are going to a more expensive place. So even more money with the referral. When you ask them about their house, you want to be very specific. I ask, did you do major renovations, kitchens and bathrooms? I don't want her going on and on about, we put in a new water heater and, we painted and we put new doorknobs on, the doors and all that kind of stuff. The kitchens and bathrooms, the major stuff, that's going to kind of help me determine the price, based on what you bought it for, just when I'm doing my pre-work. And then, price opinion, I want to know if I think it's worth $250 and she says $400, I want to know that going in. So I'm ready for that conversation. And then, obviously the time to meet, confirm that, get the email, and then ask about the competition.
Just being picky, but you can tell where in Pennsylvania you move to. So you'd have to have a lot of Pennsylvania referrals.
That's true.
You said an hour and a half.
All right.
Could be Erie, could be Pittsburgh,
Perfect. You're right. There's a lot of places there.
somewhere else.
Okay, so then we send the pre-list. Where's Gary? Oh, there you go. Sorry.
The email?
Yeah. So then I send the pre-list email. So for me, and again, this is me, we have a marketing video in here that we're gonna show you. I don't want to go in there and talk about marketing. You know, so if you think about it, you know, in a conversation, who has the power? The one asking the questions or the one just blabbing around? Who has the power? The one asking the question. So I like to send all that stuff up front. If they're a person that really cares about it, they're gonna watch it and then they're gonna ask me questions anyway. You know, and if they don't, they're not gonna watch it, whatever. But I don't like to waste time on it. There's plenty of other stuff to talk about that I think is more important. So you can scroll down.
Do you want me to play the video?
We'll just scroll down the email real quick. So what we have in it is our team picture, vision, meet the team. So our bio, you can go ahead and read it. Keep going. Bios, testimonials, and then we have somewhere on here the documents too. So the listing documents.
It's at the bottom.
And that's another thing I don't want to waste time on. So if, you know, it's a person that really, you know, like a C personality who's really detail oriented, I don't want to be sitting there, you know, for half an hour while they go line by line on the documents. And if they have access to them, they're going to take that time to read them. And then also we confirm the time of the appointment. I think that's it. So yeah, we can take a look at the video, and this is just,
What's in that 50 ways to own your home sell faster?
I can share that with you if you want to send that out. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and share it with everyone. We get that done.
Yes, we can.
So this is a little dated, I realize, because I haven't looked at it in like, you know, 5 years, but surprisingly, nobody's ever said anything about it, so I think it's fine. Some of the stats are dated.
Your house?
That's a listing that I had in Gatesville on Battle. Like my first $1 million listing. In a slow market. And I think I have a different song for different demographic as well. So it's a little more piano.
Yeah.
There's no longer active. But they probably don't get this far anyway. All right.
I love that.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, everybody. I didn't put it in, but thank you. All right, so that's that. All right, so now, you know, we're building credibility, you know, they know that we're a real estate company that actually does things, so on and so forth. So then we get to the day of, or, this is the same day. So, if it was, a different day, I would call that day or text or something and confirm the appointment. Small detail, super important. You don't want to be showing up places and have people forget or whatever, because it's a waste of your time. We're gonna run through kind of a listing appointment, and then we're gonna pause for questions or ahas. One other thing is, time, you wanna get there on time. I plan for like 10 minutes. Write that down, on time. 10 minutes beforehand, and then, you can circle. A lot of times I'll be driving and like, I won't see the house, so you wanna get there early so you can point out the house. And then just go, post up down the street and just wait. And then show up like a minute before the listing appointment, right on time, and smile. Okay. Oh, and one other thing. So you want to, I'm a big believer in visualization. All right. So get used to doing that. Visualize before you go to the door. Your mind's going to be telling you, if you are not purposeful about it, your mind's going to be telling you all the reasons that you're not going to get the listing. I don't know this area. I haven't been doing this very long. I'm not a good realtor. I don't have the numbers. All that is bull. I don't care. I mean, this is me again, personally. I don't care if it's listing in Painesville. I don't care if it's Geneva, Akron. I mean, I want to drive out there. I'm fully confident I can sell the house just as good as anybody else. It's a market. Just like the stock market, you learn to read it, you know how to sell things, you can do it. So be confident, visualize yourself getting the listing. And then by the time you walk up there, you'll be halfway there. Okay.
We're gonna just break super quick, to bring Sean or Chris, one of our friends at Cross Country. They're really briefly gonna talk about how their value comes into a listing presentation. If you happen to know that seller's financials, or if you don't, you'll find out at the listing appointment. One of the more common questions is, should we do a bridge loan? Should we do a home sale contingency? What if we don't want to use our funds? What if we have funds to use from equity of our house? So Sean or Chris is going to talk to us super briefly on that and how they.
General, oftentimes you have a buyer who says, well, I want to sell first, and then the conversation gets into, you want to sell first before you buy, but they don't want to put on the market until they find a house, and then of course it comes time for you to make an offer, and now it's got to be contingent on sale. Everybody knows in this market that's a bit tough to do. So the different options that a buyer has, of course, is, sell first, which means if they're making an offer, it's got to be contingent. Everybody in the room knows how tough that can be. A bridge loan, which we absolutely do offer. We do bridge. There's not many lenders who do, but there are some drawbacks with bridge loan. You're doing mortgage on the one they're buying and on the one they're selling, and there are costs on both of those loans, but we do them. We do them out of state. Very few lenders will do this. If you have somebody moving to Texas or from Texas, we'll do one in each state, so that's absolutely fine. But beyond that, what we do a lot of, you've heard me talking a ton about it in the meetings, is recast. So have a conversation with the buyer saying, hey, I want to buy a house, but I don't have 50% down I was going to have from the sale. No problem. Can you come up with 5% down just to get into the house? Own money, 401k, gift from family, home equity line of credit, just to put a little bit down to get you in the house. Then after your house sells, we'll use that, think of it as a second down payment to re-amortize the loan, bring that payment down to where if you were putting 50%. Does anybody remember how much the cost of a recast is? Previous meetings, being $250. So it's easy. It's not a new mortgage. It's not a new appraisal. It's not a new rate. It's not a new refinance. It's just a simple recast. Now you call a lender up or call, Rocket Mortgage just to throw their name. They're not going to talk about recast because what they're going to want to do is refinance you again in 2 months and get a whole nother transaction. Club you on the head with a new set of closing costs and the whole mortgage process. So this is a great way to kind of use the situation of contingency offer, or how am I going to try and time this buy and sell. So that's just, feel free to loop us in as early as you want to in that conversation, whether just with a seller or a buyer.
So you can even do a home line of credit off of that house. For
can-
their, for the down payment for the next one?
Yes, you can use a home equity line of credit. Now, if somebody doesn't have a home equity line of credit, we're not gonna be able to put a home equity line of credit and then list the house. We can't, when we're doing a mortgage, we're saying, is this your primary residence? We can't do a primary residence on this house alone, or primary residence on that one. So home equity line of credit, if you're sitting at the table and they're about to list your house, it's gonna be too late for them to run and get a home
So it
equity.
already has to be in place.
Yeah, and you
Okay.
can't do it. They just want an early plan. And there's people who are planners who are, I might list the house this summer or this fall. Go get a home equity line of credit right now, whether it's for home improvements around the house or that just in case.
So basically, it's, to make sure I understand this right, it's, you have to have a home equity credit in place. But how much is it that they have to down or,
Then the home equity is just an option. So on the new house, 5% down, conventional, great interest rate. And just to catch up later on the weekend. So home equity, it doesn't have to be home equity, but that could be one of many other. one of the
Recasting?
options. And a lot of people do a 401k, like, wait, am I running to get a home equity line of credit? At 401k, there's no closing costs, there's no appraisal, they can usually pull up to half of what's in there. And it's better interest rate than what we'll see.
and how long do they have to pay that?
I don't know, 401k, usually it's either 5 or a 10-year repayment, but you know, they could sell their house and pay it back in
Okay.
2 weeks.
Okay.
So, and that's, everyone's got it sort of a different sort of, you know, kind of for financial portfolio. A lot of times it's, you know, want to get money from mom and dad.
Yeah, I had one client that did pull it from, that was 401k, but he had 60 days to return it.
Yeah, so if you do a withdrawal from a 401k, you have to pay a tax and penalty unless you pay it back within 60 days. So they, a lot of times it's sort of, I mean, I think borrowing against it's easier because you're not bound by that 60 day.
Okay.
But if you withdraw it, you're gonna have to pay that penalty.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not actually a withdrawal, it's called a borrow from your 401k.
You can do either or, with most.
Thank you, Sean.
Is there anything I can help you? I'll be right back here if you need.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, moving on. Okay, so time of the appointment, on time, remember to smile, remember to be confident, and I like to say, dress nicely. There's a rumor going around that after COVID, no one put a tie on or whatever, and stopped dressing up. I think, you know, you're selling yourself. You show up at the door looking good, your car is clean, you know, you got jewels on, hair is nice, you know, it goes a long way with the seller. You know, they're gonna be oftentimes, you know, in their yoga outfit. So, you know, you're dressed for success. Okay. All right. Ding dong.
Hi.
Hey, how
How
are
nice to
you?
meet you.
Jake Lozier, Lozier Real Estate Group.
Perfect.
I'm so glad that we could meet today. Can I come in?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I was just looking at your hydrangeas outside. Did you plant those?
I did. I
Oh
did.
my
Hydrangeas
God, they're
are my favorite.
beautiful. Wonderful. Yeah, the house has wonderful curb appeal. Very nice. Have you gotten outside today? It's beautiful, isn't it?
I honestly, I haven't. You caught me like in the morning. I was working from home still, and then now you're here. So yeah, this is it.
Well, yeah, so, thanks so much for having me over. Should I take my shoes off?
Oh, you're good. My
Okay.
shoes are too. You're good.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
So if it's okay, I'd love to just start, if you could show me around the house. And
Yeah.
I can take notes and you can tell me about what you've done and repairs and
Okay.
things like that. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. So I'm gonna pause right there again. So again, this is me, this is what I do. You know, a lot of people or a lot of other agents will tell you, you know, the important thing for them is to run through the house real quick because they don't want to waste time. So for me, this is our chance to kind of break the ice. You know, it's, you know, when you first meet somebody, you know, there's a little bit of tension there. Right? So
Yeah, I'm very nervous.
You're nervous? So, you know, going around and just making small talk. And also, you know, I'm going to be going around with my pen, kind of looking down. It just like breaks the tension, breaks the ice, gives you a chance to get to know them in like an informal setting. And for me, and you know, check things off the list as you look through the house and talk to them. It shouldn't take that long, but it's for me, it's a crucial part of the appointment. All right, Kate, let's go. I'll follow you.
This is my kitchen.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
So tell me again, was this like this or did you do anything?
Yeah, we have not touched the kitchen at all. Well, I guess this is a new fridge, but we haven't done anything else other than like replace a couple appliances.
Okay. And were the appliances upgrades or
Yeah.
pretty much? Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It's beautiful. So one thing I'll let you know right off the bat, we're gonna bring our stager in down the line prior to listing. She'll probably tell you to clear off. It's beautiful the way that you have it, but when we go and take photos and things like that, she'll probably tell you to clear off most of the stuff on the counters and off the fridge. Does that sound good?
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. Let's continue to the living room.
So our living room is over here. Now this is where we completely took out like all the old carpet. It was purple carpet, as you can see.
Yeah.
So now it's just more of like a neutral look throughout, but
That's beautiful.
so living room and bathroom.
Wonderful. I see there's a watermark up there. Is that something that's ongoing or is that repaired?
It was actually a leak that we found in the home inspection when we bought, and it's been repaired. We just haven't even touched the stain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd love if you don't have anybody to fix that for you, I'd love to refer a handyman, somebody that I really trust that can help you out.
Oh, cool.
if you'd
Okay.
like. Okay. And on to the bedroom.
Right here,
What a-
there.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Over there.
Oh, are these your children?
Yeah,
Or your
yes.
child?
My one child.
Does she go to Shaker?
Yes. he does.
My children go to Shaker.
Yeah.
Does she love it?
He loves it. He loves it.
Oh, we love it too. Okay. And finally, this looks like your backyard.
Yeah.
So very nice. I can see what you were talking about when you said, you're possibly looking for something a little bit bigger. This seems kind of small. So hopefully, get you something a little bit bigger as
Sure.
as far as your yard space. Okay, so just to summarize that, just some key points. So again, the overall purpose, break the ice, gives you time where you're not, in a very strict format, to kind of like get your legs, get comfortable. And then I'm asking about updates, very important. If there were, if she did like redo the kitchen, it's a good opportunity to ask, what kind of appliances are these? What type of granite or stone is this? Anything like that. One, people like to talk about it, it makes them feel good. And then, so you can take notes, put in the listing. Repairs. One, you need to let them know they need to fix up their house, so it's an opportunity for that. But then also every time I'm like referring, somebody in my, network, it kind of shows my value and it shows me as like a professional, whether you need a painter or electrician, plumber, anything, I'm your guy. I'm your guy. I'm the real estate professional. We touched on staging, and then things to connect you, don't go on and on about, if he's a fisherman, you're a fisherman, but little things, sprinkle in there that, you have in common, I think is nice. Okay. Any questions for Ahaz?
The aha is that you want to make sure that she sees you both as a realtor and a human. That's why I'm
Yes.
engaged on that little thing about the shaker.
That's right.
Shaker schools.
I am human. Okay,
Believe it or not.
great. All right, this is a beautiful house. Would you mind if we sat down?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna hear people talk about a certain way that you sit and stuff like that. I just sit. Wherever I can sit. And this is kind of So now you're comfortable, you know, you're good, it's ready to like get it done, right? Close the deal. Did I not give you my business card?
Oh, not yet. Thank
There
you.
you go, just so you
Appreciate
have it.
Better,
Yeah.
better late than never.
Yeah. All right. Also folder, get some kind of folder to leave with them with like some helpful information, a copy of the contract. I usually print out 2 copies and leave them with the blank one. Take the complete one just so they can review that and then let them know that it'll be in their portal.
You copy of the contract of listing agreement.
All the listing docs. Yeah, all the documents. So first off, I know I sent you that pre-list email. Do you have any questions about that?
No, that was super, super helpful. The only thing, I mean, I saw that there was like a link with all the documents. Like, do I have to fill that out or is that something that you can help me with?
That's a great question. So we're going to go over that today and you know, we can fill everything out here or you can also e-sign it, but we'll walk you through that.
Great.
Great question. So I'm glad we had a chance to talk before I came over. I'd like to unpack some of the stuff that you were talking about. So you said you had to be in the new house in Pennsylvania. Was it at the end of April?
Yeah, that's when my new job starts.
Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about that, just as far as how you see the timeline going?
I mean, in an absolute perfect world, we would be, you know, in that house a week or 2 before my new job starts. But honestly, if we can't find the right house, I don't want to like push it. So if it had to be, you know, that day or 2 or 3 weeks after, we can be flexible, but perfect world, I'd like to be there 2 weeks before my job.
Okay, so would you say like maybe April 10th would be a good?
Like April 20th would be perfect.
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, and if we could get this house sold so that you could get into the new house by April 20th, what would that do for you and your family?
I mean, honestly, like it would just take so much stress off of us. Like, you know, I have a 4-year-old, so driving an hour and a half to work to and from, like, it's going to be very difficult, but I could figure it out. So it would take like so much stress off of us.
Okay, and in a perfect world, what do you think the benefit, you know, to your daughter and like your time would be if we could get that done for you?
Well, honestly, I'd have to hire someone to like do preschool, you know, getting her on and off the bus and post school, getting her off the bus, doing dinner. Like it definitely is going to cost us money if we can't figure out a house to live in.
Awesome. So I think, you know, I think based on what I've seen so far, I think we can definitely get this done for you. Let's talk some housekeeping stuff because I know a lot of times, you know, a move across state can be difficult. I see a lot of furniture and a lot of stuff here. What's your plan with that? Do you plan on selling or giving away? Or are you going to move everything there? Do you need an estate person?
No, we're gonna take everything. And I mean, unless like the buyer comes in and asks to purchase it, that's definitely negotiable. But otherwise, we plan on taking all of it.
Okay, perfect. Are you aware that in Shaker Heights we have a point of sale inspection?
I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so in a lot of the communities around here, it's required to have a point of sale inspection in which the city will send somebody out. They'll do an inspection and then you're required to either complete the inspection items or negotiate it with the buyer. So that's something you're going to want to do like today or tomorrow, very soon. Our admin, Erica, can give you a call and kind of walk you through it just to make sure it's easy and seamless.
Okay,
Does that
yeah.
sound good?
That's great.
All right.
Is there a cost for me to do that?
It's a $200 check.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
just that you write, but you can do it online. Do you have a moving company?
No,
Okay.
I was
Sorry.
gonna do it myself.
I'd love to recommend a very good moving company.
Yeah, perfect.
And then we talked about some of the repairs already that we need to do that we touched on. Is there anything we didn't talk about that?
No, I mean, I guess in your opinion, because we're not married to like a sales price, like, is it even worth it to do some repairs or should we just list it for lower?
That's a great question. So what I always focus on is, you know, your net price.
Mm.
So all the things that I'm going to be recommending are, you know, with minimal effort to get maximum results. All right.
Okay, cool.
A little thing like a stain in the ceiling, you know, you can get that done and fixed, you know, for a few $100s. Whereas a buyer is going to come and look at it, you know, they're going to question, you know, how it happened. They're going to worry about it. They're going to think, what else isn't she fixing?
Mm.
So we really want to do everything possible as cheaply as possible to get you the max results.
Yeah, that
Does
makes
that make
complete
sense? Okay, great. All right. One other thing, you know, I touched on staging. So as part of our value, we offer a free staging consult.
Mm.
So after we get down the line, I will send my stager in here and, you know, because I know you have some questions about, you know, how the furniture is situated. And, you know, we talked about the stuff on the counter in the kitchen. She'll walk you through all that stuff. So we kind of have maximum, you know, results for the pictures and then later listing. Sound good?
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right. So it sounds like, you know, you're in great shape to get this done in the time that that you want to get it done. And, you know, I'm confident that we can line this up for you so you can get into the new house by April 20th.
Love that.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So real quick, that was pleasure, right? Everything's good. So now we're going to kind of switch to a little bit of pain, which for a lot of people is like a bigger motivator. Just real quick. So I wanted to talk about potential marketing price, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Before I do, I feel like in the past, some sellers have kind of had a very strong opinion about listing the house higher than we were comfortable with. And it's caused some delays. So I found that it's super important to kind of unpack that and talk about it a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
it.
All right, wonderful. So let me ask you if this did take a little bit longer to sell because we were a little off with the price and price a little bit higher, if it caused the house to be delayed in selling and got, you know, into May or June, would that be?
Oh, no, absolutely not. At that point, I would just pull it off
Got it.
like that. I cannot do that.
All right, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think, like I said, like the reason I want to get there is because I don't want to stress about this. So like starting a new job and worrying about if the house is going to sell is just too much for me.
Got it. Okay. So sounds like that's a non-starter.
Not, yeah,
Okay.
no.
Great. So it sounds like we definitely want to price the house right to get it sold as soon as possible. so we
Like
can get you
within the weekend
All right,
of listing, yeah.
there. Perfect. All right, so let's talk price.
Yeah.
That
let's
sounds
do it.
good. Okay, so if you look here, I took a look at houses in your area and you know, basically quarter to a half mile radius of your house, 2,500 square feet, like yours, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. Now, obviously we, in an ideal world, we would have identical houses, you know, same layout as yours on the same street that have sold, you know, in the last 3 weeks, because
Yeah.
then we could just plop it right in, it'd be obvious. That doesn't happen. So what we have to do is kind of look for, you know, certain markers so that, you know, we can construct the market and put the puzzle pieces together, you know, in an imperfect scenario, and we can figure it out. So one of the big things that I like to look at is price per square foot, you know, in the beginning. So if you see here, the average price per square foot in your area is $160.
Okay.
Right? And I know that, you know, you had mentioned the house down the street that sold, you know, for X, a lot more. So if you look, that house is $230 a square foot. But if you look at everything else on the list, you can see that that house is kind of an outlier, right? So, you know, to set us up for success, we really don't want to focus on the outliers. We want to focus on, you know, the averages so that, you know, we can get the house sold and we're not wishing for a price that's only seen, you know, once in a blue moon. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, perfect. So if you take a look at these two groups of houses, you'll kind of see that, you know, this group over here, they're kind of all in the 140s a square foot. And then in this group over here, they're kind of in the 170s. So if you look at those two groups, where would you think your house would best fit?
I mean, I definitely think at least 160, so probably closer to the second group.
I think you're right. So the good news, Kate, is that the market that we're in is such a seller's market that really the only wrong thing we can do is price the house too high. All right. So if we price it too high, instead of 10 offers in 3 days and 50 showings, we're going to get 3 showings and no offers.
Yeah.
All right. Which is a situation we definitely don't want to be in. Do we?
No, not at all.
Okay. Because if you're in that situation, really your only option is to reduce the price. And at that point,
I feel like that would just make it look like cheap or something was wrong.
exactly.
Yeah.
Very cheap.
Yeah.
You don't want that. And what happens is, at that point, you're chasing the market down, instead of, letting it rise you up.
Yeah.
So the good news, the inventory is so low that, if we price it just right here where we're talking about, or maybe a little below, chances are the market will bid the house up ideally. And it usually, and I don't think we're pricing it low, but if we do, it'll bid it up to the perfect price. The market kind of figures it out, with the multiple offers. Does that sound good?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So after looking at this, I think it's obvious that we should price right here. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. So why don't we go over the paperwork and we can get this thing going?
Yeah, let's do it.
Done. And then shut up and start going through the paperwork. I don't ask, blah, blah, blah. Do you think, blah, blah, blah. I start passing them the documents and sell it and get out of there. Don't talk yourself out of the listing after you got the listing.
Yeah.
If you can tell you got it, she's receptive.
At that point, when you say, let's go over the paperwork, if I were to say something like, if we sold at 400,000, how much do you charge me?
That's a great question. So we charge 6%.
Okay,
and-
is that for the other realtor too?
That's a great question too. So we take that out of our end. We take care of the buyer. And, I can go into I usually explain the whole NAR thing. I didn't even write that down because, but we can talk about that if you want to. So what I say is, again, with me, it's all assumptive. Like I'm moving forward. So, I say, you probably heard about NAR. What that is very simply, you can't set a commission price for a buyer. We can't market it in the MLS. The truth is, commissions have always been negotiable, So the real big difference is that now, you can't market it in the MLS. You can't refer to what you're offering the buyer. And it's always, a discussion that we have client by client. But, I really, and if they say, okay, as we go through the listing agreement, there's the section on what you pay the buyer, so I go through that and what I would recommend, but their options. And if they say, I don't want to pay a buyer broker, it's very simple, so I say that's absolutely an option. What it's potentially going to create is some hesitancy with buyer's agents, because that's true. If you don't have a set buyer agent commission, and the house down the street does. I don't know, am I within guidelines?
No, you're within guidelines. And I also would say, I think it's important to bring back the net number that they need to take in their pocket. So I think you already know my net number. I need to make $65,000 off of this house. So if it were me in this listing appointment, I would just be honestly, I don't really care what the buyer's agent gets paid. You're the expert. Do you think I could still get the $65,000?
Right, absolutely. And I would say, whether you can or you can't, we don't create the market. The house is going to sell what the house is going to sell for. But the reality is, in most cases, buyers don't have additional cash on hand especially at the price point we're talking about, to bring to the table in order to cover their closing costs. So in many cases, if we draw a hard line on this, it's possible that they could go elsewhere. And I say, you know what, I fully support you. If you want to, leave it blank and see if they, ask for it or want to negotiate it, that's fine. It's not what I would recommend. Just like we were talking about, what repairs to do for, highest net number, what little things can we spend money on? In my opinion, this is, even though it's an expense, I think you will absolutely get, more of a net number by taking the uncertainty out of the situation, and offering it to the buyers agent.
I think too, like if you would tell me like, okay, like if we're gonna be looking at houses in Pennsylvania, so are you going to want to look at the houses that you have to pay
Right, exactly.
$5,000 to purchase, or would you prefer to look at the houses you don't have to?
Absolutely.
And I'd immediately be like, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Put it in there.
Yeah.
So what if she would have turned back to you and said, okay, $400,000 at 6%. Oh my God, I'm paying you $24,000 to sell my house?
To be honest with you, that never, ever, ever happens to me. Does it happen to you? No.
Sure.
I mean, when people say things like that, I'm like, yeah. I mean, if you're thinking about that and focusing on that, I would say, if it does happen and somebody mentions it, it's a fraction of the time. And I would just, it's like Terry Shimoleski used to say, when people ask, can we negotiate your 7% or whatever she charges, she'd just be like, ha, 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 no.
He also said one time is, if I can't protect my money, how am I gonna protect?
Right, exactly.
So what would you say in this, like in the world, and I'm putting you on the spot, I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
No, it's good.
I do think like what I would say, I'm like a super high D, so I think you found during, I don't want to talk about the carpet I replaced, but you're asking me, so whatever, I don't care.
Mhm.
And with that being said, like, what if I were to come and just be like, just out of curiosity, like, I told you I wasn't having any other realtors here, but like, I just Googled it before you got here, and there's like ABC Realty said they would do this for 3%. Like, what's the difference?
Sure. So first of all, I would make sure, if they're saying they would do their half of it for 3%, or if that includes the buyer
Oh,
commission.
That makes sense.
But we're very intentional about setting our commission, based on the value and the service that we provide and the results that we get for our clients, and it may be that you want to talk to that agent, and we might not be the right fit, but I'm certain that we'll be able to do the job and get you the most money for this house.
Makes sense.
It honestly, it's a common question with agents, but when you get like going, and 6% isn't even, some people charge way higher.
Yeah.
And with that, like, they have all sorts of fees and things like that, so I don't think that I'm being stingy by offering my 6%. I think it's a good, strong rate. And of
Just like a
course,
standard.
it's always negotiable. I can't say that that's what I charge.
So if my house is like 1.4 million instead of 400, and I
Yeah,
have
so
to
then
pay
we do
you
then we do
4?
it tiered.
Okay.
Then we do it tiered.
Okay.
Yeah. So then
So in that 6%, you do the,
so then I would do a
3.
7, 5 to 500, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
3 on the
but
remainder.
on the 6, you do a 3-2 split for the buyer.
I do a
and
3-2
3-4
split for the
you.
buyer. Yep.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
So you explain, that's what I want to ask you is, how do you, we understand the 3-2 and all that, but you have a lot of people explain, okay, why is 3-2 until 3-4, for you guys? You don't
No.
ever have that question really?
Honestly, I don't.
Okay, just.
Because again, I'm just
In the
going
listing
through it.
agreement.
Yeah, it's in the listing agreement,
You have to put in that spot 3-2.
and we do.
But they
And I
never
go
ask
over
why.
it. I go over it. I'm like,
You're just saying nobody asks like why that is.
if they do, we address it, and usually my answer is, that's what we offer them. That is the split that we offer the buyer's agent, and that is consistent
With the market.
with the market. You know, that's not gonna appear weird.
Yeah.
We're the listing side and this is our split. It's not, as soon as you start to like backpedal and explain yourself, I think it
You do
it
lose
seems
credit.
weak.
Well, and it seems like you're charging me too much.
Yeah,
But if you're just firm of like, well, this is like the industry standard and this is usually
Yeah.
what we see in Northeast Ohio, I'd be like, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And it's what you charge as a professional, and whatever you decide, you know, I would be consistent with it and I would own it. You know,
So I have a question. My sister has about $1 million home. So she was selling and she said, oh no, all that money, we're gonna list this, we're not gonna pay no more than 3%
Mhm.
because it's $1 million home. So if you really don't, I mean, what would you do? Would you not list?
so that's
Yeah.
super easy.
Beats a zero.
Well, so again, if you're, she's talking about 3% for you or 3% total.
She was being so cheap. She was thinking period, but
Okay.
that
So-
didn't go totally over. Ended up
so-
being like 40.
So what I would say is, you know, the stats are out there, you know, the sellers that, you know, are represented by a qualified agent, you know, or I would just say me, look at my stats, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's important to, you know, and you can see they get X amount percentage more, right? I mean, you can see the stats. This is what we do for our clients. So it's important on a $200,000 house. Imagine 10% on $1 million house. So you're telling me we're arguing about 3% when I'm gonna get you 7% more on $1 million house? You're willing to leave that money on the table? Oh,
Right. Thank you.
And I will say, just as like your team leader, not like your listing coach, like 0% of $1 million is still 0%. So like take the 3% and take the $1 million listing. Like, and we'll help you with what that looks like. Like, don't get so caught up in the percentage. If you have the opportunity to list $1 million house, like unless they're going to ruin your life, I'm going to say like, let's look at the bottom line of like what it's gonna cost you to list the house versus what you're gonna take home versus what you're gonna be able to pay a buyer's agent. Like in a certain case, it might make sense at a certain price point to reduce that 6%.
right.
is
And
what
I'm not saying occasionally I don't reduce it a little bit. And, you know, maybe if it's my,
And like you just said, she ended up going to a 4.5% after what was said and done. So sometimes you just have to like put them in a spot of understanding, but like you don't always have to do the 6%.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
right. But I
3%
think
of $1 million.
the
is still
distinction
great.
here is if you're feeling like you're being taken advantage of,
Yes.
it's gonna
Yes.
spoil the entire, you know,
Transaction.
transaction.
Yeah.
Like if you're feeling like they're really, you know, and they still expect the world and they expect to call you and then all of a sudden this is the deal that, you know, everything goes wrong and, you know, you're getting sued or who knows what.
Yeah.
And now you're, you know, you're pulling in whatever, 3,500, $5,000 on $1 million, you know, it's, so I would agree. Yeah. I mean, you make up your own mind, you negotiate your own thing, but you have to have a
The
bottom
standard,
line,
yeah.
bottom line that you're willing to walk away, you know?
I love that. It's very true.
I also did, because I just did this on a list and I was a little under 600,000. But I have worked with that buyer, that seller numerous times, and we listed at 4.5. I still got my 3%. However, I let him know that, hey, if we get some offers and they don't want to accept this 1.5, then you may have to adjust. And now we're under contract and we're at 6%. But I'm not arguing like, he's like, all right, I'll give him the 3%. But I'm like, well, but I'm not arguing about it. And I told the agent, because it was a cash offer, but they came in lower. And I said, listen, we're giving the 3%, but it wasn't there. So this is where we need to be.
I do love setting the
But I'm not gonna
expectation.
just settle.
Yeah. I love that. Like, I do really like the setting the expectation of like Mr. Buyer or Mr. Seller. Like, I appreciate that. And like, we can certainly start with that. But just like we talked about how it's negotiable now, you might see an offer come in and they're going to negotiate a higher commission and we'll just address that then.
But I wouldn't do that on, you know, lower price.
Like a
That's what I was
225,000.
doing.
Yes,
But you
right.
never want to set the stage where they're expecting you to possibly renegotiate your
Your commission.
commission,
Like, this is
because they'll
not-
always want to do it,
Yeah.
you know?
I
Now's
know.
the time where we get to negotiate your money.
You
Yeah.
can keep doing it. Every deal is nothing's gonna be, straight. Every deal is gonna be a 5-year, 6-year, 4-year. They got a problem, 3-year, no.
Yeah. I like that, what you just said. Like, it's not the time to negotiate your commission.
Yeah, just.
The
be
buyer might
super
get
duper
more,
clear.
right, but like, yeah, I like that. You're very assumptive in your tactic, which I appreciate.
Well, I got a lot of D in me as well.
Yeah. Yeah, this is recorded. We're gonna cut that part.
I don't know where your mind's going.
Um,
I like to get,
yeah. Yeah.
on to the next one. On to the next one.
Can you explain a little bit more into, you said when you're deciding price for them, and you're to say, you said you have 2 groups of houses, like, so when you go in with comps, you're taking, because the way I usually do it, but you're leaving them to decide, obviously, but can you explain a little bit the 2 groups that you're doing?
Yeah, so so Morgan will tell you a lot of times, if it's a slam dunk,
Mhm.
I'll have them sign the paperwork and I'll leave it TBD, and then I'll go home and I'll come up with the price, and then I'll send it and have them change, initial it, whatever. I don't leave without the listing agreement being signed ideally, but if it's, if I'm competing and I don't want to leave without getting it signed, it's really, it's studying the market, and it'll start to kind of present itself. Is that your question? Like how you do the?
You said you had 2 different groups. And you were
Right.
saying them.
So you have the averages, and the houses that are, wholesale versus the houses that are market versus houses that are, pristine
Okay.
will show up and separate
Right,
themselves.
right.
So if a house seems, if the price per square foot is unusually low, that's wholesale house. You're gonna probably see buyer to accept, point of sale, stuff like that.
Right.
And if you're not getting a big enough sample size, in this market, because things have kind of plateaued, I have no problem going back a year, whatever it is, expanding a little bit just to get those numbers. And you wait until, you convince yourself that, the numbers back themselves up. If you can't see a pattern there, you have to go back to the drawing board, but it should show up that, this group is selling around this price per square foot. And maybe, you also look at the sale prices. We just did one where it was unusually larger than the other houses. So if I did price per square foot, it would be off the chart. But then you look at the actual sale prices, and nothing on the street sells for over 200.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at both of them.
Yeah.
I just focused on price per square foot because I do think that it's
That's okay.
telling, and it's a way to start narrowing them down.
I usually print out paper listing agreements, but I noticed you gave her, in the beginning of your presentation, an option to sign electronically. Do you ever actually do that?
Yeah,
How
so
do you guarantee they're gonna sign it after you walk out?
I don't leave without the listing agreement and the consumer guide signed.
Okay.
And then I send them everything else. I also don't like to sit there while they fill out the residential property disclosure. If possible.
You're just like sitting silent, staring.
Yeah.
And like-
Yes, water intrusion, water intrusion. Next question.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would go take pictures and like if I didn't hire a photographer for that listing, while they're filling that out, I would go just take some pictures.
Oh, yeah, love that.
I mean, in reality, you're not supposed to really, you're supposed to not be around or coaching
Yeah.
them or anything with that anyway.
Yeah.
They always have questions.
Yeah, they always have questions and they'll ask, and Eric will follow up and do all that stuff.
I saw one more question. Oh, yeah.
In regards to the pricing, when you get out to where I traditionally am, Geauga, Trumbull County, your comps, when you look at average per square foot, you may find houses that are gonna match, but the the acreage isn't gonna be.
Absolutely.
How do you compensate? Do you kind of just go with add another 10, 12,000 per acreage, which is kind of what's going out there now, or how do you do it?
I don't really do that.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not the one. I was gonna say, you know, some areas are super duper hard. Like there's nothing that's sold. And so you really have to go to work and, you know, it's much more of a process and you could be way off. I mean, look at these appraisers, you know, that they don't come back a lot of times for like 5 days. They can't figure it out and they can't find enough comps. So yeah, I mean, I don't know the specifics about price per acre. If I did have a listing out there, I'd figure it out, you know, or I'd bring somebody in. But, you know, you do your best. A lot of times you go with your gut and we don't have a crystal ball. All we can do is, you know, take the information we have and make an educated guess.
Well done. All right, well, I know you have an appointment at 10:45, so we're gonna be respectful of your time and everybody take a round of applause.
Thanks, everybody.